We're going to talk here for a few minutes about Snmp, the Simple Network Management Protocol. Note the quotes around simple. And also a little bit of unscheduled help for you, something that happened here in the lab that I want to show you and share with you regarding Cisco Configuration Professional. We'll do that during this video as well. Now, when it comes to Snmp, the operation is simple. And you have a network management server, and that, of course, is the management device. And then you have agents, which are your managed devices, and they can be anything from routers to printers and everything in between. The NMS does the managing, the agents are the managed devices. You know, hey, what else do you want from my life? That's very simple, right? Information about those agents is kept in a management information base, so it stays simple, right? It's a pretty simple concept, MIB. And what you've got here are some messages flying around your network. Now, the NMS can ask for information from the managed devices, and this is what we call a GET request and response. Now, there are two separate messages there. The NMS asks for the information, requests it, and then the managed device responds with it. Or a managed device can send an unrequested message to the manager. This is called a trap. And yes, trap is usually in lowercase and GET is always in uppercase, just one of those things. Now, why would a managed device want to send an unrequested message to the manager if we have these great GET requests and responses? Why would the managed device want to do that? Because if something has happened, an event has happened on that printer or that router, say, I think someone just tried to hack me, you don't want that device to say, oh, I'll just wait till the NMS asks me about it. I won't tell them about it. No. You're going to tell that NMS immediately. You want the management device to know as soon as possible. So that's where the trap messages come in. There's also a set message which sets a value to a given variable on the managed device. Now, what is the issue already security-wise, you think? Now, I'm not talking about anything specific to Snmp. What do you think an issue is here with security just with this small description? It's these messages that we've got flying around containing information about our network devices. Because with all of these info requests and responses flying around our network, and you add in those unsolicited trap messages, there's potential for real trouble here. First off, the messages could just plain out be intercepted. Or worse, and this has happened, a rogue Snmp manager can be placed on your network. And that's going to be really bad because that's a lot of information that an intruder is collecting about your network. Now, this is where the versions come into play. And, this isn't complicated. This is the only part where, I have simple in quotes there. But the major difference between versions 1 and 2 and 3 is the level of security. I kind of lump versions 1 and versions 2 together here. Why? Because they do have something like a password. Of course, this is networking, so we can't just call it a password. It's called a community string. And these control both read-only and read-write access to managed devices. The problem is there are plenty of devices out there with the default passwords, and note the exclamation point, yes, default passwords set to public and private. Remember when you learned about Telnet and I joked, hey, we got to set a Telnet password because you wouldn't want a default Telnet password on your router. Well, we really don't want default passwords of any kind on our routers or our devices, but unfortunately Snmp versions 1 and 2 do have that. Version 3 offers 3 different features that the previous versions don't offer, and these are all things we've heard about in the course, and they're all good. First off, you have authentication, you have encryption capabilities, and you use hashes. Let me fix that, thank you. Hashes to ensure message integrity. Versions 1 and 2 don't have any of that, and if you think that's bad, you're right. Version 3 introduces security levels, and these are pretty bizarre looking at first, so giving you a little extra something here to help you remember what each one means. First, you have something called authpriv. Well, the priv there is for privacy, and encryption is available, as is authentication. So we love that. We have auth no priv, And the no priv or no priv is for no privacy. Authentication is available, but not encryption. And then finally, we have no auth, no priv, which to me means no nothing. Seriously, there's no authentication, there's no privacy, just these community strings, and that's it. So it sounds to me like version 3 is really what we ought to go with. And the configuration of SNMP at the command line is really beyond the scope of the CCNA security exam. You'll be bumping into that later. Not the most intuitive thing in the world at first, but you certainly get the hang of it like anything else. So let's take a look at it quickly in Cisco Configuration Professional. And I've got my router here that's discovered. I simply go over to Configure, and then it's going to be under Router, as you see, and we've already had everything open there. Just click SNMP, and you really don't start with anything because SNMP is disabled. So if you want to start your editing, you just start right there. You've got your box for enabling SNMP right there, and then you'll notice you can add your community strings. Notice the type of community strings we mentioned just a few minutes ago, read only and read write. And then trap receiver, your IP address of your server. Here's the device location and even a box for administrator contact so they know who to blame, right? So you're thinking right now, hey, Chris, if version 3 is so fantastic, how come I don't see anything here about version 3, right? Because everything that we're looking at right here, as far as the community strings, that all ties into versions 1 and 2. Well, sadly, version 3 is not yet supported in Cisco Configuration Professional. So if you are going to be working with SNMP in the real world, I strongly suggest that you use version 3. Just grab the Cisco documentation off of it. Like I said, their documentation always takes a little getting used to because they have all the options, it seems like, in every line. And just go from there. Just use iOS help, go from there. But you will have the hang of it in no time at all. And hopefully, later versions of CCP will have support for version 3 here. I was a little surprised when I found out they didn't have it, but you can't have everything in GUI, right? Let me share with you what happened here. This is non-SNMP related, but I want to share you the slight agony that I went through. When I launched CCP today to work with this particular lab, I noticed that it was just hanging. It wasn't giving that opening window where it says, here are the devices we've discovered. Do you want to connect to them? Do you want to connect securely, etc.? It was going straight to this screen. And then finally, I got a little line of red code right here above configure router. And red code is never good. Have you ever known a siren to be good, Mr. Simpson? And what the message actually was this one. org.hibernate.exception.generic.jdbc exception cannot open connection. Just the kind of thing you want to see when you sit down and want to cut a quick video, right? Or actually work with it too. So what happened was earlier versions did have a bit of a hack for this that you could go in and change a setting in a file and then it would work. But later versions, and I'm talking earlier versions like 2.1, this is 2.5, I'm actually using I think 2.6 here, but it's the same situation. Notice the conditions here, I love this. This problem rarely occurs and there are no specific steps which create the problem. So there's a lot to go with. We really don't know what causes it, and it doesn't happen much, and it might be a corrupted database, we don't know. But of course what really counts is when they tell you the workaround is to reinstall Cisco CP, which fortunately is not that huge a deal. But just in case you ever see this message, if you're looking for a solution online, make sure that you get a recent solution to it. Because like I said, 2.1 versions around there, they wanted you to go in and do a little bit of a hack in a file and go from there. But later versions, 2.5, 2.6, and onward, I'm sure you just simply have to reinstall the software. That is it. A little SNMP there and a little extra real-world troubleshooting. So that's it here, and I'll see you on the next vid.